were there any characters like in season 1 where you were like, oh, I kind of want to know more about them, or I hope they explore 'em more over season 2? For me, it was Abbott, the dude who like finished the
Overnight, yeah,
overnight, and then he shows up a little early for like the trauma situation. But he like, I feel like he's got like a crazy backstory because he's like the wild cowboy that we all heard about in emergency medicine. I feel like emergency medicine now is definitely like less wild. Like it's still wild at times, but it's more like more protocols, more things are set in a way. There's like transfer protocols and specialists. But like I feel like he comes from an era where like, you know, you just didn't have that support, and you had to do some things where maybe you weren't the best at or you weren't trained at, but like it was the Wild West kind of situation. I'd really love to learn about his background more. I think he like is a prototypical like what you thought of an ER physician in the 80s or something.
Yeah, for sure, man. Because like where I trained at, we produce. I don't know, for some reason we produce a lot of nocturnes, a lot of overnight doctors. So we reminds me of a lot of people I went to residency with that become the overnight docs. Like they just come in overnight to do their things. They go home, you know, and they don't mind being overnight. You said because it's less resource. They just kind of, you said, more of a cowboy to do more things. A person like Dr. Robbie for sure. He's like the main character. Learn a little bit more about his backstory. For sure, we kind of learned a little bit more about his mentor and his stepson and everything. And I forgot the guy's name. That one with the benzos. That was still in the medication.
Oh yeah,
what was his name?
Yeah, I'm blanking out on his name, but he. And then they showed him in the trailer for season 2, which is interesting,
So
right?
back,
Like if that actually happened, you're out. You're not back in the hospital ever again.
Yeah, I mean, once that happens, man, it's going to be hard for you, especially your residents. It's going to be hard for you to get a medical license.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard, and you got to report that to every hospital you go to. So it's going to be very difficult. I mean, even if you go to rehab and do some things, though, you're going to uphill battle for the rest of your life, man. Trying to get a job, even get a medical license, even to practice, because he's a resident. So I think if you already have your license, maybe you can do some things. But yeah, it might be hard for him to get his license. You know?
Yeah, it's like a zero mistake environment, especially when it comes to things like alcohol abuse, drug abuse. Going down that road, and unfortunately, it's kind of a tough situation where, like we talked about it, the burnout is high. The stuff that ER physicians see sometimes can be very tough, but then like no one really talks about it, right? Like you, and I saw this tweet the other day. They're like, I was just like, coding this patient, like 20-something-year-old, and then I'm expected to go home and operate like a normal parent and whatnot, which is the expectation for all of us, right?
Yeah.
Like we have to be there for our families and whatnot. But like you go from like this very high intense pressure cooker environment to like, oh, you're going to be there for brunch, the next morning, like nothing happened. And I feel like the best docs that I look up to or that have handled it the best, they have a good way of like showing that intense environment the appropriate amount of respect, but like drawing a line somehow. But for some people, they can't do that. Unfortunately, like alcohol, drugs, and things like that creep in, and it's good that they show that on the show because that can be a real issue.
Did he have a back injury? He had an injury when he started using medicine. He forgot why he started using it for some reason.
Yeah.
Drawing a blank. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's kind of hard. People always tell me, especially it's a high burnout rate. We talked about that earlier, but you have to draw that line. Once you leave the door, don't take it home to your family, to your kids, and it is tough, man. It weighs in your mind, especially like during COVID. And I remember those times, like leaving in New York, like the city was shut down. Wasn't much of an outlet you can kind of do. So you go home after a tough shift, wear on his mask and like that shower and give a little break. But it's tough, man, to try to draw those lines. So not bring that stuff home. And sometimes people come in and remind you of family members or friends, and they have a good outcome, and it just kind of hits you home. And you realize that like what's the everyday process for you? It's like that's probably the worst day of that person's life that came to the ER, but this is just another day working for you, but this is like their probably the worst day of their life they've experienced being in the ER or what happens there.
Yeah, and I feel like I recently had to go with a family member to the hospital, and it was thankfully the family member was okay, but it was like a 5-hour visit. It was frustrating, and as someone who like works in the system, I was like, why is this result not back yet? Or why haven't they hung this liter of fluids that was ordered like an hour ago, or whatever the case may be? And you realize that even when thankfully your family member's okay, it's like a really frustrating experience. Now imagine like if they're not okay or they're really, really sick. And like you said, it's hard to, when you obviously do it for work, you can't like, every patient can't be like, oh God, this is the worst day of their life, because then that's going to affect you, right? You're not going to be able to operate with that efficiency and do what's right for them. But that is the truth. You walk in and you're like, hey, 10-hour shift. At the end of 10 hours, I'm going to go home. But for some people, that is the day that they may enter the hospital and they may never leave. And it's kind of tough to think about.
It's a rough job, man. Like, if you take any poll, I think ER has the highest burnout. People burn out quick in it, and that's why people start looking like kind of what you're doing. People look for like outlets outside of medicine and try to prolong their career, because you can't keep doing this as a full time, sometimes you got to taper off, take a little break, and come back. I've done it before, man. I went really hard, and then 1 year I kind of taper back. Don't pick any extra shifts up, get some shifts away, and it kind of recharges you.
Yeah.
Makes
And
you
I think
feel
that's
good,
important because
Yeah.
if you're just like, oh, I'm going to go 10 out of 10 till I'm like 50 or 55 or whatever your retirement age in your mind is, like you may not make it to that number
Yeah,
because
yeah.